Welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where 2, and sometimes 3, and sometimes even 4 film fans watch the best and worst horror movies and talk about them. But today is something a little bit different. It's a special bonus-ode. Yes, we're still trying to make that a thing. With a special guest discussing a very special game. My name is Ben Errington, and I'm joined by regular co-host
Andy Conduit Turner. Hello.
Hello, and the guest in question is an actress, game enthusiast, and co-host of the superb gaming podcast My Turn. It's Gem Carmella. Hello.
Hello.
Hi there.
I was waiting for you to introduce the podcast that's hosted by bearded horror fans.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, I should have
stopped
a beard on.
I've stopped saying that when
When people without a beard, especially people who listen to the audio version, don't want to get you typecast, Gem. Like,
No.
Right, I need a bearded woman for this film.
I mean, I can have a beard if the role calls for it. I'm that versatile. It's fine.
I feel like
You
our
heard it here,
our
guys.
beards are less and less prominent as the years go on as well. I think when me and Luke started it, we were both quite bearded. I think now very well kept. Especially you, Andy. You're trimmed right down.
Yeah.
Looking
Yes,
suave.
very trimmed.
Very trimmed. Very nice.
I think like big beards got into the fashion of it, didn't it? And I was like, well,
There we go.
Is it
Don't
like
get
a
labelled
lot
that
of
one.
maintenance,
No.
a beard?
in-
Just like moisturize it?
I mean, you kind of have
do if
to.
it gets long,
Yeah.
and that's why I don't like literally anytime like if you like you're at risk if you leave it too long it starts to get long. You've either got to moisturize or you're at risk of getting pubic, and no one wants that.
Oh, no
one wants that about their face.
No, they
So,
don't. No.
Yeah, get rid of
No.
it.
Yeah, right. See, yeah. It always looks like a lot. Like my husband cultivated quite a beard during lockdown. It looked like a lot of work. He spent a lot of time doing things to
I feel like
maintain
I
it.
never quite get used to it.
Brushing.
It always feels like something's like extra on my face. I always like pick big holes in it, just fiddling with it.
Oh, don't do that.
I can't
Oh yeah,
help it.
if you're watching the streams, guys, you can tell how stressful a week I've had by how many holes I've picked in a beard.
Yeah. So we're gonna be doing. Jesus Christ, Andy!
It's just great beard chat at the top.
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
podcast.
Wish I was joking.
So we're not going to be talking about beards today. We're going to be talking about a game,
it.
a game that
Yeah.
we've all got like different relationships with. I know Andy's been there; he's been an OG from the start. I think Gem's played both versions of it. I've only come into it. I've only come into it since the remaster version. Obviously, as a game review, we haven't really done many of these specific episodes, but I think we would like to do more.
Not since Soma, I think, was last time we talked about games.
Yeah, so I think we did an episode where we spoke about games, like horror in games. And we discussed Soma. I think we discussed some Resident Evil, some other stuff. But to do specific episodes where we tackle specific games and kind of treat it as a review episode is not something we've done before. So this should be fun. So today we're talking about Alan Wake Remastered. How exciting. Woo, woo. So I could do a quick little thing about Alan Wake just so everyone's up to speed. Alan Wake is an action-adventure game developed by Remedy Entertainment and published by Microsoft Studios, released for the Xbox 360 in May 2010. Bloody hell. 12 years ago. I knew you said 20 years ago then. What? 12 years ago. And Alan Wake Remastered was released in September 2021. So yeah, you both played this when it was originally released in 2010.
Yeah.
I didn't because I've never owned an Xbox, and I think it was just on the
It
the
was,
Xbox.
It was.
So, it was, but I saw bits and bobs of it. I was familiar with it in a way, but I guess, Jem, what was it? When was the first time you played this? Then was it back in 2010?
I'm just cunningly adjusting my mic, which is just moving on its own. It's possessed
Oh,
by
God.
the darkness. My goodness, the
Shine a
themes
torch
of
on
the
it.
game are already spilling over.
Get a torch on it quick.
So my history of Alan Wake. Well, basically, I grew up playing Nintendos and Sega consoles only, and then my housemate got a 360, and that having that 360 was my first relationship, I'd say, with what I call grown-up games, because I feel like I've just had a background of like Nintendo and Sega IP. So I was like, oh, what scary stuff? Grown-up stories? Drama? What? What? I'm not playing a cute little plumber.
Alan Wake's cute. Alan Wake's cute.
I will get
I like
onto
his
that.
I like his jacket.
We will get onto that. But I remember Tim, my housemate then, who is also one of the co-hosts on My Turn podcast with me, basically my non-biological brother. He was like, "Oh, this game's really cool. You'd love this. It's kind of like Stephen King, but a game." I was like, "Okay, well, that sounds weird." And I started playing it, and the prologue, which I'm sure we'll talk about a bit, that prologue is so captivating that you're just in the game straight away. It doesn't hold your hand with sort of contextualizing anything. You're just like, I'm having a nightmare. Here is the nightmare. Now you're playing the nightmare. Go.
You're living it.
And you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
And I just remember being absolutely hooked. But because of my history of playing what I call baby games, I got to a point in the game, probably about two-thirds of the way through, where I was like, this is too hard. And also I was too scared. And this was a long time ago, people. This was 2010. I'm much braver now. But yeah, I always remember thinking, I love that game so much. And I think I played a little bit of the DLC as well, and just sort of dipped in and out. Like, I was the kind of person who'd maybe play a level of something and then be like, oh, I don't know, like, oh, I'm gonna go out and get drunk, I'm not gonna sit and play through a game. So yeah, I had a social life then.
Those are the choices you've got.
Basically.
Stay in, play Alan Wake, go out, get drunk.
I was in my 20s. I didn't, there wasn't really the culture of just sit at your computer all the day long. So I always remember it. I remember loving it. I remember it really well. Like, I had a really good memory of the story and the characters, but I didn't quite finish it. And so when Remastered was announced, I was pumped. I was like, this is it. Because I'm a big grown-up gamer now. I play big games.
Big grown-up gamer, and staying in is everything now.
Staying in is a new going out.
Jesus. Love us staying in.
Exactly, both those things. So yeah, that's my relationship with games.
I'd been like a fan of Remedy games, so I played the Max Payne games, and I think whenever I saw anything of Alan Wake, I was frustrated because it was only on Xbox. But whenever I saw it, it reminded me of like the nightmare sequences from Max Payne. It looked like similar in a vibe to sort of that, and the gameplay and everything looked fairly similar. But yeah, I don't think I could have justified buying a new console just for Alan Wake, because I was never really that interested in other Xbox exclusive things like Halo. So yeah, I never ever bothered. So yeah, similar to you, Gem, when Remastered was announced, I was like, finally, I'm going to be able to play this. And as soon as they said it was on PlayStation, I fist pumped. I was happy.
It's good to get to catch up on it, because it is like a really good touchstone of games, I think, particularly for this particular genre. But we'll come to that, I'm sure.
I'm mentioning like it's
absolutely.
Stephen King. That was kind of the vibe I always got. It looked like Stephen King in an action horror game, I guess.
Yeah.
Also reminds me so much of Twin Peaks. Like, I feel like I'm just in that environment where all the sort of strange characters in this small town and how they interact with you, the main character, as well. And is it a dream? Is it real? What's going on? That sort of vibe as well. It's very interesting.
Can I read you a quote from the top of the game?
Hell yes.
Go.
Just while we're talking about Stephen King. It opens with Alan's voiceover saying, Stephen King once wrote that nightmares exist out of logic. I'm doing a really bad accent, by the way. I know that. And there's a little fun to be had in explanations. They're antithetical to the poetry of fear. There we go. So it opens with a Stephen King quote.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good Alan Wake impression as well, I think.
Thanks.
And then, like, take a run at there.
Yeah, it pretty much, like, the opening of the game goes on to kind of explain the thesis of the game, which is everything will be unexpected and there will be no answers, but that mystery is what's going to fuck with your mind.
I think another one of the reasons it reminds, like, it is episodic in nature, and in terms of like pacing and structure, it is like a TV show, isn't it? And
it's really good at telling you kind of where to stop and where to start almost. And it's so good if you are playing like Gem was at the time, and you're like, okay, you do a level and then you drop out for a bit. That ability to go in and say, like, previously on Alan Wake, like a TV show. Yeah, it's lovely. I love the just overall structure of the game. And again, I think that's why it's stuck in my mind all those years. It's that, it is
each episode feels like you've experienced a thing, like a contained thing, even though the story progresses throughout, obviously. But the fact that you get those little like previously on, as you said, and then at the end of each episode you get the amazing use of licensed music. So that's something I love. And Remedy do it so well, because it's amazing in Control as well, the way they choose licensed music really well to enhance and support
licensed music, but not from like huge artists either, like from quite small artists that
well, there's some huge artists.
I can't remember. You're gonna have to remind me.
I've got the full list here.
Full list.
I'm a nerd, everyone. I'm a nerd. I mean, the game ends with David Bowie, so some
of course.
Big artists.
Oh my god, it's only got some like tiny little artists. A few of you
Roy
might know
Orbison, no one's ever heard of him.
Oh god,
David
Nick Cave, no one's ever heard of him.
I think because I was thinking about, there's a particular song, isn't there? That's like the main theme. Which what song is that?
Oh god, the main theme.
Yeah.
Do you mean the one that
Alan Wake?
Alan Wake, you're shining a torch in your eyes.
He can't run very far without losing his breath.
Oh god,
he gets tired.
That is literally the most frustrating thing about this game. Stamina, Alan. It's because he's got so many layers on. He's obviously got a t-shirt, then a hoodie, then like a blazer,
leather jacket. Oh no, it's a blazer.
Yeah.
So it looks damp out at Cauldron Lake though. He needs to wrap up.
And he's got bootcut jeans.
Oh, lovely bit of bootcut. What kind of shoes has he got on?
I think they're those kind of.
It's got a pair of Timberlands he's on there.
No, they're those like. It was a sort of mid-noughties thing, I think. Those kind of halfway between a cowboy boot and a winkle picker.
He's not got the shoes. He's not got the shoes for running.
I honestly think. Is it like a Chelsea boot? Is that?
Yeah, that kind of thing. But that sort of like slight cowboy boot front.
I've
but
definitely
not quite a cowboy boot.
went through a Chelsea boot phase.
And he's quite often in like a forest or a woods.
Yeah,
you're going to step in a puddle with them. They're going to get caked in mud.
Okay.
He's going to need a new pair
Imagine
after
the
this
rising
weekend's
damp
over.
on the jeans. Not nice.
So apparently the song is "War" by Poets of the Fall, who are a Finnish rock band. I think that was the song I was thinking of.
Because Remedy are a Finnish studio.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Remedy are really good at doing like a cinematic production. Like, it's unfortunate that I don't know any of the big like director names behind it, but there's few people that do it quite as well in gaming, with the obvious exception like Hideo Kojima is like a named like, you know, auteur, like creator, does a lot of like, it is kind of like him showing you the music, like, oh, look at this band that you might not have heard of that I really like, because Death Stranding is all like that, isn't it? It's a lot of like, this band I really like, and look at this music that's from this.
Low Roar, wasn't it? Yeah, that they were.
Yeah.
So
the same is true of Alan Wake here.
So it's mainly written by Sam Lake, who I think wrote this, and he was involved in Control as well. So he wrote both of the Max Payne games, and you'll probably reckon that because his face was used for the Max Payne model.
It's the Max Payne face.
It's the Max Payne face, dude.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, brilliant. They've done they did a video like that when Max Payne had its like 20th or 30th anniversary. It's that old, but he can still do the face, and he was going around showing the officer, look, found this leather jacket in the cupboard. Bearing in mind that he's come up now, that's the only thing that ever jars me about the shared connective universe of these games. Because like you, Ben, I was a Max Payne fan, which
Max gets a mention in Alan Wake.
Doesn't he? Now, what context
in
has
the
he
hotel.
mentioned? Max Payne is in the hotel.
Yeah.
Like
really?
Yeah. They have a shared universe.
He just calls him Max.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the like after Alice has gone missing and he's got to find somewhere to stay, and he goes to like the visitor center, chats to the owner, gets keys, whatever. He's like, oh,
no way.
Max is staying
cool.
in this room or something. Can't remember.
So Max is staying there, but that's the only thing that jars you about the characters. I was going to say is that Alan Wake is an actual writer, but Max Payne throws out metaphors far more than this actual writer. I played the other week because you can just pick them up on PlayStation. But and Max Payne 3 just became backwards compatible on the Xbox now, so I might play that again because Max Payne 3 is massively underrated. But
maybe I'll go back and play it as well then.
But the first Max Payne, like it literally opens with him like I was hotter than the devil's arsehole on the hottest on the last Friday in August. It's like it's really, it's
Yeah.
and it's also curry night. Like his metaphors for days is
God.
is Max Payne.
Yeah. I do think there is a lot of that in there, but a lot of the secondary characters use it. Like in the opening prologue, the first kind of antagonistic force you meet, he basically has a go at him and says, Alan, you've got a god complex. Like you think you could use our lives to create your dramas to sell your books, and then when he's about to try and kill him, he goes, you missed your deadline.
Oh, yeah.
All throwing him out there.
I love it.
Funny.
I love it.
It's just so funny.
There's
There's a few secondary characters that are really funny and got some great one-liners in this.
They do some great like building, and you actually feel sorry when people get like got by the darkness or they're taken out of it. I played this game like probably the same time that Gem did, quite soon after it came out. I had an Xbox 360, and at the time my wife was working a job that involved night shifts, so whenever she was on a night shift, that was because I don't really watch, and I haven't for years, TV and stuff like that tends to be on if there's more of us about. But any night that it's just me, I would always like play a game over watch anything on TV. So that Alan Wake was one for my wife's night shifts. Like she had like a week or so of nights, and I literally just did a couple of chapters a night and played through it in a week. And it was like sitting and watching my stories, getting through my Alan Wake. And it being episodic was really nice. And it is really like a compelling thing, because when you get to that point, it's like Netflix, I guess Netflix was still posting people DVDs in 2010, but it was a bit like the binging of Netflix now, where it's like next time an Alan Wake, and I was like, time is it?
Are you gonna play one more?
Probably do one more chapter.
Yeah, they're deceptively long as well. I think apart from the prologue and the last chapter, like they're deceptively long. Like you think, oh, I've done it. Oh no, I haven't. A whole other section. But I like how each chapter is also revolves around a night. I think there's only one chapter. I keep calling it chapter. Sorry, episode. I think there's only one episode where you get a bit of day and then it goes back into night while you're still in that same episode. But I like that like you're playing it within the night and the story happens within the night.
Yeah,
and
you're
then
like
the daytime
is
just you kind of getting up to speed with Bright Falls and like, what are the citizens of Bright Falls up to and what is going on and what is the truth? Like, I love how they split the kind of the action and survival to be purely in the evening, and all of the sort of being enlightened to sort of happen more in the daylight. And like, so it's a really like nice.
It's
a nice game balance as well.
It does some nice stuff in the story as well to kind of make sense of why Alan Wake has to stay in Bright Falls, and not just like get the hell out of there, or you know, it makes sense. It doesn't sort of drop anything in where you're like, this doesn't quite flow for me. So I think the flow of the game is really good.
Yeah. Do you want to just give it like a nutshell of the story?
Yeah. So Alan Wake, he is a best-selling crime fiction author. He's suffering from a 2-year stretch of writer's block, and he and his wife Alice travel to the small mountain town of Bright Falls for a short vacation. I think on the advice of Alan's agent Barry.
Yeah, love Barry. He'll come out.
Love Barry.
Yeah. So not long after they arrive, Alice. So it's like a prolonged nightmare with like shadowy figures trying to kill him, and it ends up with Alice going missing. Obviously, the story is far more complex than that as well. But in terms of that is sort of like the basics of it.
Yeah. So there's two kind of like problem threads. One is what the fuck is going on, and then there's also like, is my wife missing or dead? And they play around with what's real for quite a long part of the game, which I think is really smart, because as a gamer, like you're, in terms of the narrative, you're like, you think you know what's going on, and then you get into the next episode and you're like, oh, is Alan just crazy?
Yeah.
All right.
Is he an unreliable narrator?
That's
Are we just seeing what he perceives?
Yeah.
Are we just seeing what he perceives, and we're kind of following him along with this madness that we've got? And we were talking about this just before. Like, I know there's a big angle with, sometimes you get a protagonist in a game who are looking at you, popular character Ethan Winters, like a little bit
Sorry, I
like
might have slagged off Ethan Winters before we started the
like
podcast.
he's no Chris or Jill. He's certainly not
Exactly.
another Barry. Like they've
No.
done it's an angle where you have a character who they don't really do much. There's not much about them because you're encouraging your player, especially in first person stuff, to project upon them, and it's their experience. I quite like a character that you are following as this story. You don't necessarily have to role play as them. I'm not playing Mass Effect and it's my version of that character.
Yeah.
I am following the story of this character, and I'm doing the things that they would do.
Yeah.
And I'm watching a story unfold. And we said it just before we started recording with Gem. I like that Alan Wake he's not terrible, but he's a bit of an arsehole.
He's a bit of a twat, let's face it. He's a bit of a twat, but he's a sort of lovable twat. And he's like, it's this kind of, he doubts himself constantly. And I think there's what there isn't about Alan Wake while you're playing with him, that sounded weird, as him during the game.
You kind of are playing with him. He's there along. He's along for the ride.
Okay, yeah, he didn't do it. But as you playing Alan, like you're, oh no, you. But you learn that he's posited as being a bit arrogant at the top of the game, and that's just from secondary characters information. But as you play him, because of the high stakes very early on in the game, you do just get him regretting stuff, thinking he's made bad decisions, hating on himself, like doubting himself, and also having to tell lies really early on in the game, which is quite a kind of good narrative device if you were watching a film or reading a book. It's a character that has to tell lies within their world to survive to characters that they need to help them is a really good device, because then you've got multi-layers of that character. And like from the first episode onwards, he's having to choose who he's lying to and who he's telling the truth to. So like the local sheriff, Sarah, he lies to her initially, oh yeah, everything's fine, da, 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 da. But later she becomes an ally and she's in on it. But it's just really interesting that you've got all this jeopardy, but also this kind of moral conundrums of Alan. Like, am I mad? Did I do this?
It feels
Who is this Thomas Brake? Is it me? Like, because there's another writer whose work he comes across, but very merged in with his own story. And then it becomes this kind of psychological muddle between them. Like, are they the same person? Is one helping the other? It feels like
he doesn't help himself, though, for a lot of these scenarios. I'm almost like,
especially at the beginning,
there, Alan, for God's sake.
I think at the very beginning as well, you are kind of, and it builds as time goes on, you're experiencing how that person would be through the life that they've had. And you do see it, there are elements that come into flashbacks and things later on.
Yeah.
I think it's a fairly good representation of how it ends up if you are like this, because he's a very famous horror author, right? He's meant to be like Stephen King famous. Like people have his cutout at the thing.
Yeah,
so
all the cutout.
You've got to be a certain level of famous to have a cardboard cutout of yourself, you know. The cardboard cutout is like a character in itself.
Let's talk about that more when we talk about Barry. But I think, Alan himself, you're right. It's really interesting playing a game where your character is famous and like the girl in the diner's got a crush on you, and everyone's trying to. The guy in the local radio show is trying to get an interview with you, and then the police. Is he an FBI guy? Because he's not the sheriff. Can't remember his name. Nightingale. He's just got like a vendetta against you because he thinks you're just a
taking
twat.
down this big guy from the big city.
Exactly. And he's great, Nightingale. He calls him Dan Brown. He calls him what was the other one he calls him like various other authors. James Joyce. He's like, shut up, James Joyce.
I reckon he's in the car before he meets him, like, what shall I call him? Get you, R.L. Stein. Yeah.
I think he says something like, calm down, Dan Brown, at some point. It's very funny.
He rhymes as well.
That's what I mean. The secondary characters are really good. But and he's like, he hates him because he's this famous guy from New York and thinks he's better than everyone else.
And that's how you end up, I think. Like he's this hugely famous character who is suffering what is, to people who have like terrible problems in life, probably a minor thing. Like he's a famous writer who's suffering with a writer's block.
Yeah.
But all these people have these expectations of him, and like people don't really understand what the challenge is, and like he can be a real ass about it. Like when he's early on in the game, when they've gone to this retreat, it's like the first few minutes right before anything really kicks off, where his wife has surprised him by bringing his typewriter along because she thinks it will help him to write being away, and he absolutely loses his
Imagine that, you just gone away for a lovely break and they brought your job with you.
He's like, you don't understand, Alice. You don't understand me. It is funny, and I think that what's really good about this is that at the end, in the final episode, where you get a flashback back to him sort of waking up from a really bad hangover, and you get to see his kind of like, I think it's right at the end, and you get to see his life with Alice is not peachy.
Find the sunglasses.
Really like that. Yeah, exactly. Find the sunglasses, and you're drunk, and you've got to put sunglasses on.
Who's he think he is?
She's really angry with him. Their relationship isn't good anymore, and I think that's really good, because then again you're like, I buy that. It's not just, again, sorry, Ethan Winters, it's not just my wife and my poor wife. It's
or baby. Oh,
my baby!
It's my baby! Oh, just leave it. Just leave the baby.
Chop my hands off.
Spoilers for Resident Evil 7, but don't worry, his wife is in a cell the whole time, and his baby's immortal. Basically, you can chop that baby up. It'll come back. It up.
You can chop Ethan up. I mean, so the baby's obviously inherited it off him. How many times does that man's hands get cut off?
Yeah, made of mold and is about as dynamic.
But in Resident Evil 7,
I'm trying to make. Oh God.
In Resident Evil 7, him losing his hands is kind of like shocking. But in Resident Evil 8, it's just happens so often. It's so ridiculous.
It's farcical. Yeah, it's really farcical. It's ridiculous. But yeah, the point I'm trying to make is that you kind of get that him being desperate to find his wife is also like, did I do the thing wrong? Because he really doesn't know, and you don't know as a player. Like
he seems to blame himself.
Did he drive into a lake and kill his wife? Because you don't know. At one point, you're told she drowned, and all of this is a hallucination based on his inability to cope.
Oh, like we'll get to DLC later, but reality in the DLC, the story DLC to these games, gets absolutely bananas. Absolutely like crackers. It goes wild, and the follow-on, not sequel, or is it, is wild. I can't wait to see what they do with the next one. But so
I'm kind of hoping they use the base game as the jumping off point rather than taking into account all the DLC though. I think you could get away with it. I don't think it changes the ending. And American Nightmares, the game is just there's like the horde mode, which is just nothing, but there is a story to it, which is basically, might as well touch on it now. You know the TV show that's on as you go round? Night Falls.
Yeah, Night Falls.
Yeah.
You're in an episode of Night Falls. You're in like a time loop episode of Night Falls, fighting Mr. Scratch, who we'll come to later. And it's about, and it kind of ends with him beating Mr. Scratch, but then it being, is that just a dream that Barry is having? So it's not a sequel. It's just like a little taste of Alan Wake for you. A little smattering of him.
But is it Barry's dream?
Yeah, but is it Barry's dream? But or is it that he's in his own TV program? Because we get into a lot about we get a lot into this game as it goes through, and as reality begins to fall apart a little bit. It's a lot about the creative process and him as a writer influencing what the world looks like. And I guess this comes to one of our mechanics here. Did you guys enjoy the pages of the manuscript? Did you find that you were seeking those out?
I did. I liked collecting them, and at the end of an episode, listen to them all back. Yeah.
I did it. I enjoy collectibles, but I definitely didn't collect anywhere near all of them, I don't think.
I think there are some of them that only turn up if you play on like the most obscene difficulty.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so there's a couple that you have to complete. You can only play Nightmare if you complete the game, and then you play Nightmare. Yeah, just I mean, you can. I might
really
one
want to punish
day,
yourself.
but I just there's so much of the game that I'm like, I could do that on Nightmare, and then there's key bits which we'll get into when we talk more about gameplay that I'm like, just why would I do that to myself?
Why would I suffer? And it is those bits where you get
Yeah.
bottlenecked, and it's just like
Oh.
survive here for a long time.
Oh
Yeah.
that is annoying.
And but before we move on from talking about Alan, I just wanted to ask you both what you thought of the remaster on the way he looks and what the way everyone looks and the textures and things. Because, like, for me, Alan's really hot. Goddamn! Now you can see his face, and do you know what? I liked him even more.
There we go.
It's got a nice.
I can't even remember what he looked like in the original.
He's got a nice salt and pepper charm, hasn't he? To him, he's quite distinguished. I like his
a little bit of stubble.
I like his jacket. He looks like a nice man that you might see just having a coffee. And he also is quite handy. He's got a torch.
Yeah, if you look at them side by side, if you haven't seen the side by side, it's quite something. I mean, it's really amazing, and like massive hats off to the team that have cleaned it up.
They've really upscaled it recently. Like, I haven't played the old one for many years, so like I'm kind of suffering from the fact that playing Alan Wake Remastered, it's basically like my memory of Alan Wake, because obviously at the time the Xbox 360 was really new and everything looked great, so it was like that's what this game looks like. And it isn't. If you go back, like the version of Max Payne you can get on the PlayStation is not a HD. It's not a remake. It's original 2000 and whatever, early 2000s Max Payne playing on a thing, and it is
pixely.
Yeah, it is rough.
I mean, with Alan Wake Remastered, even though I didn't play the original, you can still tell that it feels pretty much the same as what a game from that, obviously tweaked a bit, but it's not like completely modernized with gameplay mechanics. It still feels a little bit like a game that is 12 years old.
The thing that I feel from it, and it isn't graphical, because I think the textures and the visuals on the people have been, and the game is based around lighting, so they always wanted to do that very well.
Yeah, that is really good.
For me, the thing that makes it feel like a 12-year-old game is, I guess, the positioning of the model in space. Like, sometimes I do feel like he's kind of like Alan as a player sprite or as an active entity is kind of dropped into the physics of the world, and sometimes you can feel your ice skating on them a little bit, like he glides across what might be quite difficult terrain sometimes, or sometimes you'll run into a hidden wall and it's like, well, as a human I could squeeze through that, but I'm not supposed to, so I'm not, so it isn't going to work like that. But apart from that, like I really enjoy it. Like, I think it looks great.
Apparently, Remedy said that a remaster was the better route than a remake by maintaining the core gameplay and narrative elements of the game, but improving the visuals for newer game systems. So essentially, they didn't change many parts of the gameplay because that would have led to major redesign issues. So they didn't go that route.
And think about it,
cool cutscenes were obviously remade.
Think about it from like a financial point of view. Like, I don't think I need to hear this from the directors, like straight up from their mouths, but it's quite obvious that if this is a smart way to get Alan Wake back out on modern consoles, it is it's not a full price release, right? I picked it up around Christmas for like 15 quid. It wasn't much.
Cheap.
I think on release it was like $25.99 or something like that.
So it's come out as a low price. I think it's a very nice strategic move to get this on people who are hardcore PlayStation owners who only ever had Sony machines. They will get the chance to play it. People like me who had it on the original Xbox will go back and do it again. And hot on the heels of this coming out and it getting some nice reviews, the sequel's coming out, and that's what you need. Like, this is your marketing for a sequel. You get people into it. You end it with that. You end it with a cliffhanger, and people will come back for your second one. And the marketing has happened for 6 months. You're building that anticipation for your sequel.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if you just drop the sequel, your PlayStation owners will be like, well, I never played the original. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's really good, and it's really clever how they've weaved it into the Control universe as well.
Oh yeah.
And off the back of Control being so like well received, lots of critical acclaim for that game, lots of people have played it. So I think that it's really smart that then they dropped in DLC that includes Alan Wake as part of that universe. And then it's like, oh, Remedy are doing exciting stuff. Oh, Alan Wake Remastered, exactly how you said. And then like, oh yeah, let's play a bit of that.
That's
oh
how it
wow,
felt.
Alan Wake 2. Oh,
can't get enough.
exciting.
So Alan Wake 2
Can't get
is being
enough.
released in 2023. And although Alan Wake, the original, was kind of described as a sort of thriller mystery game.
Yeah, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Because they've backpedaled on what the
But
game
now
is.
they're officially calling
Yeah.
Alan Wake 2 a survival horror game. And
Yeah.
when it was announced, Sam Lake I can't remember when it was announced. Was it? It was some kind of event, wasn't it? Like
It was at
Game Awards.
It was.
It might be
Game
the Game
Awards.
Awards, yeah.
Yeah, he said, "Oh, the original is a mystery thriller, but this one is definitely gonna be a survival horror game." But it feels very survival horror to me.
It is.
It is.
I
isn't
think
it?
this is someone saying, oh, you think that's a chicken? That ain't no chicken. That's an egg. Here's our version of a chicken.
What
Yeah.
came
I feel
first?
like but I feel like that it's very much like you look at that and you're like, and again, I've just played Resident Evil 7, which
I
is
mean,
a survival horror,
exactly.
and I'm like, there is actually probably more action in parts of Resident
Yeah.
Evil 7 than there is
Scarce-
in Alan Wake.
Scarce resources. That's there.
Yes.
In abundance. Alan Wake.
In abundance.
Yeah.
The horror themes are throughout it, and he tells you throughout the entire game that his story is a horror story.
Yeah.
He literally
Yeah.
says those words again and again throughout the game.
Unlike a Resident Evil game, about halfway through, Alan Wake doesn't get like a grenade launcher and a magnum.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
Like he is never as well equipped as any Resident Evil protagonist to deal with horrible ghoulies. He has Energizer branded batteries for his torch,
Yep.
not anymore. In the remaster, they are generic store brand batteries.
Absolutely
Um,
pisses through.
Oh
those
yeah, they took
batteries
off
as
the
well.
branding,
Jesus.
didn't they?
Yeah, he's got thermoses. He's got thermoses of coffee.
Yep.
Because he's a
Old
guy who
school.
likes a late night.
Yeah.
Mm.
And the best, I would say, the best weapon in the game is if you get a flare gun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's
100%.
right. But really, what I love about it and why I think it is a survival horror game. Sorry, Remedy, no shade, but I know what you're trying to do. But actually your best strategic weapon a lot of the time is dodge, and the
Yeah.
dodge is so important to the gameplay in
Oh,
this.
100%.
And
The amount of times
also I
you've got
love
little
that he
slow-mo.
can't run. Yeah, that he
It's the
can't.
bootcut
Yeah, it goes
jeans.
cinematic slow mo.
It's the bootcut jeans. Have you ever tried to run in bootcut jeans? I mean, I don't know if I've ever owned a pair. But
waterlogged bootcut jeans.
You're gonna running in his bootcut jeans and his boots that he's got. He's gonna get that plantar fasciitis. Oh, he's not gonna be. He's gonna be
foot
aching
rot.
tomorrow.
Oh god,
Oh,
nasty.
Jesus.
Yeah,
But the only thing missing is like blood and gore, I guess, from what you would say is a traditional sort of horror game.
but
Possibly,
I'd say this is more old school because
Yeah.
it's got all of the stuff on the TV. The Nightfall stuff is very Twilight Zone, so it's very much leaning into that sort of not psychological horror, like supernatural horror.
Yeah.
I'd say
Supernatural and
instead-
psychological, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It
Because you
involves
can't- You can't necessarily fight the things that you're facing. It's not like this. Oh, blooming hell! That guy's grown a few extra arms and is trying to get me. He's coming at the ceiling. There's a tyrant here. These are like even towards the end. There's never a clear confirmation as to what exactly is causing it. It's like supernatural or
Yeah.
So
is it a
there's-
mental thing in your mind?
So the main threat is there's this stuff called the darkness, which is taking over humans. It says here
And
animals
objects.
and objects. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and
So
animals. Yeah.
these-
Crows.
Oh yeah, crows.
Yeah,
These
oh, yeah,
enemies are
those
dubbed
fucking crows.
the Taken. So they're like
Yeah.
murderous shadows that attack Wake. They've usually got weapons that they like sling at you or stab you with.
Yeah.
And the bigger and scarier, the more difficult to kill. And the way of you fighting these off is you've got a torch. You can upgrade the torch as well, but it obviously goes through batteries, and you shine that at the Taken, which eventually kind of like if the
It
Taken
burns the darkness away from
Burns
them.
the darkness
and
Yeah,
away,
you've
and then
got
you
to
can kill
burn the
them.
darkness off them.
then you can shoot him in the face.
and then you can shoot.
How
Basically, you can't do any
satisfying.
damage to them. It's
No.
so good.
How
When
satisfying
you finally
is
get the darkness off, you're like, yeah, fuck you, boom in the face with a gun. Ha ha!
that when you
I love
destroyed
it.
the last enemy, like in a sort of wave of enemies, and
Yeah.
that enemy explodes in slow motion,
Yeah.
that is super, super satisfying.
And I love that. I love another thing that really leans into, what you'd say is a survival horror is that you don't upgrade anything like in terms of crafting or like making new weapons. And also at the beginning of every episode, you start with nothing.
Oh, that is frustrating though, isn't it?
The end of the night goes, right, all this in the bin then, right?
Yeah, right there. I've got all these great weapons and the darkness is still here, but chuck that shotgun away. Don't need that anymore.
Yeah, no torch. Gotta find them again.
It's also one of those games where shit's about to go down when you find a massive load of batteries, bullets, and stuff. You're like, oh, what is coming up next?
Like being in a first-person game
doesn't have that. What game doesn't have that? Like, if the game's got any kind of combat, that is what always happens.
Like, this is a boring corridor. Hang on a minute. Then or in a Resident Evil game, it's a save room. Some grenades in this save room.
Yeah.
And a first aid spray.
Don't trust it.
Yeah.
There's something going around.
Maybe the game's just being generous. Nope, it's not.
We should cut you some slack. You get there's going to be a boss in a minute.
Yeah. Have you ever played the newer Wolfenstein games?
Yes.
They are, because you get a lot of stuff and you're like, oh, this is a game just filled floor to ceiling with ammo, and you're like, oh, it's gonna go off in the next room.
It's like, I've ended up with full armor and health. What's around this arm?
What's around this gun?
Why is there a gun attached to the floor? Oh, right, okay, yeah.
You have to deal with this.
Yeah.
So he never has that. So I agree with you.
No.
I think this has always been. This is, for me anyway, before anyone told me otherwise, it's been a horror franchise for me because of the content and the way it all comes together.
It is scary. It
is scary, yeah.
It is.
It really is.
When you're surrounded and the odds are stacked against you, it genuinely is scary because you don't feel like super overpowered. Like I would say that when the protagonist is so super overpowered is when it can start to feel less and less like a horror game. But with this, you always feel a little bit behind the.
You're always vulnerable, even when you begin to know a bit of the nature of the evil, and when you get more, when you as a player get more comfortable, when you're quite happy doing this little duck underneath doing this little dodge, and then like you're shining a torch at birds, without thinking about it, you get more skilled in that.
Yeah.
But you never feel like, right, I am tooled up to the nines. I've got this. I've got this locked down now. I'm in for it. You've still just basically got the few things you've been able to scramble together. I think for me, the most disappointing thing that hasn't come in, waiting 13 years for a sequel is one thing. Why can I not go to the shop and find a torch that I can put on extra hard in real life? Like still torches that you buy are just on or off. Where is my? Look, I know this is going to burn my battery in 30 seconds, but
I
really need to look in, and I'm really looking for something in here.
Is that a thing? Are there power torches with like a boost?
Torches with like a mega.
What do you upgrade? Because you get a lantern, don't you? And then is that the?
Yeah, you get a lantern, but it's not. It's just what you find, isn't it? And it's just like you have choices sometimes to pick up a rifle instead of a shotgun, or a shotgun instead of a rifle, and then you're like,
I mean, I don't.
What are the enemy types?
Always shotgun.
How many of each bullet do I have?
Yeah.
But then you've got to factor in reload speed and. So like I used to get stressed because I was like, well, I don't know what enemy types are coming up, because initially, as you said, it's mostly the Taken, which are just they're resident. Well, I quite like this actually. They're like residents because depending on where you are is what they're wearing. So at one point they're just like they're all wearing lumberjack gear, and then another point when you're in the kind of guest center, they look like kinds of patrol officers and stuff, like they've got uniforms on. Then there's police that get turned into Taken later. So I quite like that they're just normal people. They're not like powered, souped up monsters, but the darkness is giving them the power. But
they get got by the darkness, and then the hero of the story shoots them in the head.
Shoots them in the head. But does he? Because they don't. There's no.
Or do they just
body.
disappear? Yeah.
There's no corporeal.
Corporeal.
It doesn't. Corporeal. There we go.
It does.
There's corporal's an army thing, right?
Yeah. Some of them may be army people. We don't know.
There's no corporeal form, is what I was going to say.
It doesn't feel like the kind of game of a body count, does it? You don't feel like when you're killing these people, you're going to snap out of it and there's going to be dozens and dozens of bodies with holes in their heads and stuff. You kind of feel like this is just,
And in context of the
collateral.
game, like it makes sense that then a combine harvester can try and kill
Oh my
you.
god.
Comes to game.
Jeez, that, I mean, you talked about the dodge button before. I was
Yeah, oh my
mastering the
God.
dodge button on that bit.
Should we talk about some of our favorite
Yeah, some of your
sequences in the
set
game?
pieces for sure.
Yeah.
You go first, Gem. I know you have extensive notes.
I mean, I've got lots of notes. I'll go chronologically. I'd say the first difficulty spike. There's a few where you're like, oh fuck, I haven't got anything.
Yeah.
And there's hordes and hordes of the Taken. Is when you meet the guy that said he's kidnapped your wife, and you have to defend a viewing platform up a hill from hordes. And it's the first chapter of the game, and you're like, you're lucky if you've got to that point with a few flares plus the flares that are in the box. I think
you want to save those flares for that, because when they're all around you, they're the best thing. When you just pop a flare and the guy's like, oh, canal.
Bloody 8 flares.
Yeah, but it doesn't kill them. It just staggers them. So I got to that point with basically no ammo. So I think I had 6 bullets and the 2 flares out of the little red box when you get there. And so every time I died, I had to repeat that section with 6 bullets and 2 flares or whatever. Or maybe it was 12
A lot
bullets.
of those sections where you got to defend an area.
Oh my God, how am I going to do this?
A lot of those sections when you got to defend an area are tough. And depending on what you've got, that area where you defend that stage as well, when you...
Oh, yeah.
That's probably one of my favourite set pieces.
That is one of my favourite.
Because you can run around and you've got a little bit of help in that one, because you can run around and set fireworks off, can't you?
Yeah.
But that's so good. And those characters are also great. Like the old rockers.
The twins, what are they called? Oh, I've written it down somewhere.
Oh, yeah, those 2 dudes, You see them in the diner originally,
It's towards the end of episode 4, isn't it? Where you meet the Andersons, that's it, the Anderson twins. And you meet them in like the kind of residential home for troubled artists that you're convinced that you're a troubled artist, you've got to stay there. And they're like, to get the truth, you've got to find this record or the secrets at our farm, and so you have to get all the way to the farm, and when you get there they've like set it up for like a big festival. It's like the pyramid stage at Glastonbury but the Bright Falls version, and there's just like fireworks going on. Like Barry's operating the fireworks, I think, and the lights.
That's one of the bits where you actually feel like
you
feel like you've actually won. Like that day of when you finish that chapter, it's like, it feels like Alan and friends win that particular exchange rather than just surviving it. Just a really fun setting for a standoff, I'd say. Really, really.
And challenging
really
as well.
fun.
I mean, it took me a fair few goes to get through that bit. But yeah, the difficulty definitely starts ramping up fairly quickly, doesn't it, as well? After
I found really that beginning bit, and then episode 4 for me was really, I think I remember messaging you, Ben, and going, oh, I'm fucking stuck. And it was the bit when you're trying to get out of so you escape the residential home for troubled artists. You escape that, like you get past all the sort of poltergeist things and the objects trying to kill you and slam you against the wall, and then you go through the maze, which was also quite like tricky.
Yeah, that was very tricky.
And then you fight the guy who stood on the weird little bandstand. and then you come out and you're like, this must be the end. And then Barry's there and he's like, hey, and you're like, oh, thank God, Barry, you're here. And he's like, I can't find the key to the gate,
locked,
dude. That bit,
Barry,
oh my God. And he's like, oh, I've got it. No, it's a twig. And you're just fighting off hordes and hordes, and he's like dropping his keys on the floor, and you're like, fuck you, Barry, I love you, but fuck you.
Definitely a horror game, especially with sections like that when you're just literally fighting for your life
while someone fumbles for keys. Keep me honest, because I've not finished the remaster. Is it in the run of the original game, or is it in the DLC when Barry gets his like fairy lights costume? So he's
it's in the original game. It's in probably my favorite chapter. It's in chapter 5 when there's a kind of team up with Sarah, the local sheriff, and Barry, and it was like my favorite, having the supporting cast who I really grew to love at that point, sort of fighting alongside you, or Barry just mostly running around and trying to turn lights on in his weird, like he's dressed like a Christmas tree.
Yeah,
and I think he says, it's like the eye of Sauron at one point. Like he's got
just shining the spotlight around.
He's got a headlight on. He's amazing. And I think it's also in that episode where Barry, it's the end of episode 4, part of episode 4, where Barry gets out of the residential home with the cardboard cutout, and they're driving in the car, Barry and Alan, and Barry's got the cardboard cutout of Alan. He's like, my name's Alan Wake. I'm such a big writer. I'm so moody. It's just amazing.
Stitches him right up.
Barry is like, even like, that's what I think keeps the whole story and everything on track. Having a character who can be that little bit lighter stops it just being like a terribly dour, like a full-on downer all the time, and it gives it a levity. And he genuinely is like a character that, despite his flaws, he loves him. Yeah,
the way Alan interacts with him really gives him a different side to his human nature as well. I feel like
absolutely,
because he kind of does like very like
he loves him.
Yeah, he aggravates him, but he loves him and he does care about him. And like when he phones him from the very beginning, it's like, hi Barry.
He's like, when he phones him right at the beginning, do you know what he says at the end of the call? Do you remember?
It's like he tells him he loves him, right?
Yeah, he's like, I love you too.
What a bromance.
The original bromance. I think I love it. And you're right, it gives more texture to Alan's character. Like, and also Barry's just this great sort of supporting character. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, is Barry my favourite non-playable character companion in a game that isn't maybe a kind of guide type character? Because I know you get some games where you've got a kind of guide type character. I'm not including those, but I mean like a regular companion that's not playable in a game.
Especially like
I think
in a
Barry
horror
might
game.
be my favourite.
If you're doing horror games, especially, Ben, I think maybe it's just Barry's, because I also love Barry Burton from Resident Evil.
There we go.
People call Barry.
It's just
Barry.
Barry.
The best.
People call Barry. It's a great name.
Because most of the time, sort of side characters and sort of characters like that in horror games, you kind of have to protect, or they're there to sort of serve a purpose. But with Barry, he's just along for the ride.
Yeah, absolutely. And just adds the lols. And I really like Sarah as well. Like I was like, yeah, badass copper with your big gun, helping me shoot baddies in the town. Like I just thought they were really nice supporting characters. And the remastered really made Barry's puffer jacket absolutely beautiful.
The textures on those jackets.
HD puffer jacket.
I wanted to squish my face into that puffer jacket. It just looks delightful. And there's a bit in the right, I think it's right at the end or it's right at the beginning of the last episode when he like hugs Barry goodbye. And I was like, oh, a little tear rolled down my eye, and then I was also like, that puffer jacket must be so squishy.
So cozy.
So adorable.
And waterproof as well. What more could you want?
Yeah.
Why is Barry wearing shorts? Why is he wearing shorts?
You've got to let the ankles breathe, you know?
I think he's got the same logic as my dad. My dad is a big one of this. We will go to Alton Towers or wherever as a kid, and he'd be like, I know it might rain, or we might get on a log flume or something. Always wear my shorts because my legs will dry faster than jeans.
Yeah, there is that point, but shorts and a puffer jacket. It doesn't make sense.
Keep keeping his organs warm. Wants his legs to dry off, though. He doesn't want to be like Alan and his boot cut with the rising damp.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That is true.
So he's on there. What about and I guess, spoilers if anyone else hasn't done it yet, we'll touch maybe on some of the supernatural characters. What do you guys make of, what's the fella's name? The big Bioshock goody light man, Tom?
Oh, Tom. Okay, Thomas Zane.
Thomas
Zane, the writer who died in the 70s when there was an underwater volcanic eruption under the lake where whatever island was there. Can't remember the name of the island, Cauldron Island or something. And the island sank and he did with it. That's like, it's strange, but when I went back and had a look at the beginning again earlier today, I realized that the first and second chapter do actually a lot of work to contextualize him, but I think if you're playing it through for the first time, you probably miss a lot of it. I don't know.
He's
what
technically
you guys
the
found.
first character that you meet, right? Because he is the Follow the Light Man from the Nightmare.
Yeah, that's it.
In the beginning, and then he comes and I guess he's the closest character that you get that actually offers any type of explanation as to the nature of the darkness, and you meet him in something I think is a great concept, the room where there is no darkness that you meet in on the room where like it is light everywhere.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
called what is it called? That room's got like a really cool name. Oh, I can't remember now. I've written it down somewhere.
No,
but
I
yeah,
can't remember.
it says early on in the game that he was an avid diver. And so that kind of links him to the lake, and he was always on that island, and then that island got called Divers Island after him, and so that kind of contextualizes that weird diver suit. But the diver suit is older than 70s. It's kind of weird that it's like,
yeah, it's super
it's like a really old school diving suit, like with a big helmet where you'd walk along the seafloor.
It's like a Big Daddy from Bioshock, right?
Yeah, it looked like Big Daddy, exactly.
But he's got lights.
Yeah, I kind of like that. And then I did wonder, because you meet him in that form towards the end as a sort of a interactive vision, and then the end of the game is Space Oddity. So I'm like, wait, is there even a question of sci-fi elements at work here? Like, because it does, although he's meant to be in a diving suit, it does feel a bit like it's leaning that way as well. Like, it's
there's
really
like
sort of...
Yeah, is it science or is it like a supernatural element that he is like a character? Like, he's become the kind of antithesis of the darkness, I guess, in this character that is all about the light, and it guides Alan Wake through this thing. And it's about like the energy that it requires for, to create reality, basically, which is why it targets these creative people like Alan Wake, and why it creates our other kind of supernatural character, Mr. Scratch, right? Who saves us on actors. Great. Because we get like basically Nega Alan, like they're like an evil Alan Wake.
Alan. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's great. In the main game, that's just one bit, I think.
Yeah, it is.
But I'm assuming that turns up again in the DLC, Nightmare. I think. Yeah.
Mr. Scratch turns up in the DLC, which is, it all follows on from the ending, which could not, which could be a further dream, it could be a thing, but like when you get into the DLC, you find yourself like it's very much Alan versus the Mr. Scratch character, and you are more directly influencing reality. Like in the last piece of DLC, which is called The Writer, you literally are going through, and some of your puzzles, don't worry, there's still lots of the Taken to fight, but your puzzle work is that there will be words like written around there, and you shine your light on the ones that you want to happen. So there might be a bridge that's down, and you shine the light on like the word bridge or repair, and then and then it all comes back together. And it's a lot about like influencing reality. Now you've kind of given up on the pretext following the ending that you are in a real world, you're in like a strange dream or fictional universe that you're actually influencing through his work as a writer, trying to overcome this Mr. Scratch character, because it's kind of alluded to that whoever wins will be the one that gets to take over. And at least numbers of, well, I'm going to go out and I'm going to leave you here, wherever here is, and then I'm going to go out and I'll be Alan Wake now, secretly me, Mr. Scratch. And you get a lot more of a, I guess, like a face to put to what the evil is.
I like that, and I like that that's sort of thematically sort of really quite heavily linked into everything in terms of creation and forming characters and like basically finding your way through. And right at the top of this game, even there's one of the first videos you watch. There's just like on a wall somewhere, I can't remember, or in a cabin you come across. There's weird sort of scenes that you watch, like with live action.
Like a live action,
not
like
the bright full stuff, like just like weird sort of interrogations and stuff. And one of them really early on is like, this is a thought experiment, the many worlds interpretation. And then they kind of articulate this sort of many worlds theory, and then like the guy shoots himself. Like, I don't even remember this, and it's like, am I going to die here or in the other world? Like, it's, and I kind of like that they've continued that through.
I think my years of punishing myself and just doing this on the hardest difficulty are beyond me, because there are so many things to play now.
Yeah, I generally start everything on normal. I just feel like that's what it's been developed as, and then as long as you can switch it up, that is, because if you can't, then sometimes I get an opinion before I start.
I think most modern games allow you to switch the difficulty, don't they? Sometimes they punish you. Sometimes
Resident Evil 7 doesn't, but it was fine. It was just one bit in that game that just it doesn't. I had a problem with one bit of that game, and I was just like, "Is this the game? Because if this is the game, I don't want to play it.
I'm not having fun anymore."
Gem, are you a fan of it, like of when you get patronized by a game where if you die on a bit, he goes, "Oh, do you want me to turn the difficulty down? It's a bit hard for you, is it? Do you want me to make it?"
I don't mind. I just played like a really sweet little puzzle adventure game on the Switch called Chicory: A Colourful Tale, and even in that, if you die, there's like a kind of weird boss fight. It's a spoiler if I tell you what it's about, but they're very chaotic and mad, but it will allow you, like after you die, it will say, "Do you want us to give you more chances before you die?"
Okay.
And that's really sweet. And I'm like, oh yeah, actually, do you know what? I don't mind. I don't mind because otherwise it will kick you back out to the beginning. So I'm like, yeah, okay, give me more chances so I don't have to do the whole stuff. You know, like boss fights, you've got a cycle of 3 things. And blah, blah, blah.
Devil May Cry is always the one for me. It's like, oh, do you want to this game is a bit hard, isn't it?
When it punishes you, it's when there's possibly a trophy for completing the game on that difficulty, and by dropping down you've kind of ruined your chances
locked yourself
of getting that
out.
Trophy.
I'm not that bothered about trophies.
I've had to stop counting. I'm like, no, if something's too hard and it's like something that I'm just never going to finish, I may as well just get on the story. I already have terrible phobias about open world games just being too big to ever possibly enjoy as well.
Yeah, you start getting agoraphobic. Yeah. Like the last Assassin's Creed game, I was like, I can't cope with the size of this map anymore. I have to stop playing. I just can't cope.
There is no more. Which is why things like Alan Wake are great, because it is just and like there is, if you want depth and if you want to scour every inch of this game, then go and find your coffee pots. You crack on. But like front and center, all you really have to do is go and enjoy the narrative, like battle your way through.
Yeah,
definitely. So obviously we've called this a game review. Are we gonna review it? Like give it a score?
I was just about to say, should we? Because we've quite kind of been pretty positive about the game, and like maybe it's worth. Yeah,
we're all big fans. of it.
All I'd say is like the only thing playing now that annoys me about the game was just that it's a 10-year-old game, and so some of the mechanics are just not.
Yeah, it's a 10-year-old game, and it feels like one at times.
Exactly.
More so at other times than it's not like the same all the way through. But for example, a friend of mine's big into horror. I recommended him to play Alan Wake Remastered, and he was just like, "This just feels super, super old." And I said, "Like, yeah, but you kind of got to take it." It
not
is
your friend anymore, then, right? You'd be like, "Well, if you ask for my advice and I give it, and you're gonna throw it back in my face like that,
I'm gonna shine a torch in your eyes, and then whack up the power, burn your retinas out your head." But yeah, apart from that, to consider it was the first time I'd ever played it, it kind of lived up to that hype. 10 years worth of hype for me, where I was like, I would like to play Alan Wake one day. Don't really want to buy an Xbox. How am I going to get a hold of it? So it was a blessing when remastered arrived.
Yeah, and it's a really lovely length. It's a really nice, and I think, as you said, Andy, like the just stress about a game getting too big. It's just like you have to make decisions. I mean, did I see, Ben, that you've just got the new Horizon game? I feel like I saw you post it.
Yeah, so I got that yesterday.
It's an investment of a lot of time.
Yeah. I've luckily managed.
I just want more 12-hour games. Yeah. More 12-hour games.
Yes, please.
I timed finishing everything in Days Gone, like just as I bought this one, because the fact 2 open world games crossing over, I wouldn't been able to do it. But
I can't even like. I wish there was an option on these open world games just to say like. Because I know that's why I've like steered away from some of them, because if they're on the map, I will do it.
Yeah.
Like I'm the mug that got all 100 feathers in Assassin's Creed 2. Like there wasn't a map for him even then.
And it wasn't even that big then. Like,
no.
But now you.
Like, it's terrible. Like, and I don't like. You're right. More 12-hour games, because when something's on the box and it's like, it's not like the years of Final Fantasy VII where it was like on the back of that box over 100 hours, because it was only a few games that did that. It's like, over 100 hours. Wow, what money's worth? I'm a teenager. I can only afford a couple of games a year. This is going to be great. Now it's like several big tentpole franchises on the shelves. It's like over 300 hours. It's like, I could learn a language.
Like the new Dying Light 2, 500 hours of gameplay. Why?
It's just too much. What I like as well is when you finish a game, the credits roll, and that's it. You can forget about it, until you want to pick up and play it again. All the New Game Plus stuff where you're like, go back in and do all the bits you missed. I like it when a story-based game just allows you to just leave it at that. I'm finished. Yeah. There we go. I don't need to go back to that now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And sure, there's DLC. I'm not that bothered. I don't feel like the story needs it, but if you want to dip into it, obviously, as Andy pointed out, it adds layers to maybe what's happening, maybe what's not happening. But I feel like this kind of self-contained game, good digestible length, just it leaves you feeling like you've achieved something. It doesn't leave you like you're feeling like, oh, maybe I should have gone back in for those side missions. Like, maybe I should have chosen that other route of something. Yeah, it's just.
I think,
and it's got big TV show, like it's like got big TV series like energy about it, isn't it? Like, so you feel that you've done it, and then we can have conversations like we've just had, where it's like, and like, did you see that bit? And like, you enjoy this scene, and what do you think they're going to do with this sequel? Like, it's fun.
They should just make Bright Falls into a TV show.
That would be
like,
amazing,
have an adjacent TV show rather than Alan Wake the show. But I always worry about video game adaptations. I know some are maybe slightly getting better, but
I don't know. I feel like
I'm always a bit like nervous.
Did you hear the news about the Fallout TV show this week?
Yeah.
Old Wally Goggs.
Oh, Wally Goggs. Yeah. So the lead character in it is going to be a ghoul, right? That's interesting.
That'd be interesting. I'm here for it. And they've announced they're going to do a Netflix. They're going to do a Netflix movie of BioShock, right? Although, my faith has been a little bit like, well, it's always up and down with video game movies, and we're talking about this on a horror-centric podcast of all things. Resident Evil.
Oh, how many do they want to make?
Resident Evil kind of let me down with Welcome to Raccoon City.
It wasn't good.
And I didn't watch it at the cinema. I saw it on Netflix just over Christmas. You know what? Sonic was dead good. I had a great time.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, that's true.
Sonic's banging.
Yeah, it is a difficult one, isn't it? Because we've all seen like properties we like just get fucked with. They try and turn them into things, but at the same time, the odd one.
Yeah, I think now people get like I think now we're in an era where people making video game movies are people who grew up enjoying those games, rather than people who were in the film industry that were given the property to work with cynically. I mean, it worked with Mortal Kombat, obviously. That's absolute gold. Not the new one, the old one. But
Mortal Kombat 1, like the first one, is one of my faves. But I don't know if it holds up for me. I haven't seen it for a long time. I watched it a lot.
Xbox gave it away when MK11 came out. Like, Xbox just said, free download for the Mortal Kombat film. It's yours now. And I sat and watched it.
What's the line when he smashes his sunglasses and he's like, "That's a $600."
There's a $500
or whatever it was. Yeah, I love it.
And he kicks him off a cliff.
Anyway, we have segued massively.
Yeah, we should review. Ben, do you want to give it a letter score like you normally would?
Yeah, I don't know how we do
segues are what this podcast has come to be about, it would seem.
That's what you're here for.
All right.
So I think, considering I didn't play the original and I just played this one, I give it an A. I think. I don't think I'd go. There's still some things that make it's not as good as an A+ for me, like a perfect game, but it's definitely up there. I enjoyed it. I wanted to keep progressing with the game from chapter to chapter, episode to episode. I think that the story's great, and sort of the bigger world it alludes to as well is good. Maybe just some of the mechanics, the fact that they're 10 years old, it did feel a little bit sticky, if that's a correct word to describe. Sort of had a few problems with it, and the difficulty spike definitely sort of took me by surprise a few times where I was like, am I suddenly just shit at this game? What's going on? I am dying over and over again. But yeah, I think I'd give it an A. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I'm going to give it an A too, for all the reasons you said. And also, I just absolutely love these characters. And it's a narrative that's just stuck with me for a long time. And even like, and also we didn't even give a shout out to the sound work in this game and the music, like the non-licensed music. Like all the sound in this game is amazing. And the music is out. The score, I mean, is outstanding. So yeah, massive shout out for that as well.
I think you're right to extend that though, Gem. Like I think like Ben recreated it when we were talking about shining the torch and things. It's got really good clunky, like the when you get the lights, and like just the incidental sound and like the nice things. Like it's one of the most effective things about adding the panic to it is when you reload, and you can reload faster if you tap the button quick to reload the gun, and you're trying to get you're trying to redo your. It's great. Like it's a great way to add the panic to it because you're ducking into those guys and reloading those guns. It's fantastic work. And
I just remembered as well. Did you notice that the menu sounds like a typewriter?
Yeah, it's so good.
I love that. Like what lovely little details.
Nice little details in, and that's what's great about the whole thing. And I'm going to join you guys on an A as well. Again, same thing. I think mechanically, has it been outdone in the 12 years since its release? Absolutely. Like, by the same team that are behind it and lots of other people besides. It's for me, it's carried like, and I can overlook any of its shortcomings mechanically. I can overlook in just how enjoyable and focused that narrative is, and going through and the characters that you meet and the story that actually feels that you can wrap it up. I just really enjoy it, and I am delighted that we are getting more, and I can't wait to see what I
cannot wait. I
can't wait to see what they do with it. But yeah,
there we go.
Good times. I'm going to carry on the remaster. I'm going to finish it.
Yes, do.
And I guess we'd all thoroughly recommend this game, then, wouldn't we?
Yes, go anybody.
Go play it.
Like some would say, like if you want a critic, if you're the type of person that wants a straightforward horror experience, maybe there are elements of it that's, for want of a better term, a little bit wanky at times, but that's what I'm here for. Like, I love it. It's just wanky enough. I think
just mentioning Twin Peaks at the top is like, if you like that vibe and you like your imagination being stretched, go with it. But in the prologue, if you like the vibe, like that's what I'd say is really strong about the game. It says what it is straight away. Yeah,
there we go.
And as we're here throwing ourselves on together, I need an incentive to play it. If I can persuade you to give me a reason to hurry up and finish Deadly Premonition, which is a big polarizing sort of David Lynch thing, I would love an excuse to do it.
I don't have one for you. So.
No. Well, yeah, get on. No, yeah, I'm going to get on Deadly Premonition one of these days.
I'm sorry, what is that even? I don't even know. What
YouTube will be able to explain it better than I can. So it's a bit of a cult one. It's called Deadly Premonition. It's got like big, like Twin Peaks, like Lynchian vibes energy. If Alan Wake is the Western take on it, that is the Eastern take on it.
All right.
Okay. But yeah,
could be up my street.
Take a look, and if you don't look at it and go, "I'm never playing that," then we'll get together and we'll all play it and we'll talk about it.
Compared to Heavy Rain a little bit, Deadly Premonition. Yeah.
That kind of vibe. All right. Yeah.
Nice. So there we go. Where can we find more of your stuff, Gem?
You can follow all my acting stuff online. I'm just on Twitter and Instagram at Gem Carmella. And for my gaming takes and my podcast, look at My Turn with an exclamation mark. And we are on all of the podcasting platforms, so all of the things. And would love some more listens and shares and recommendations and 5 stars. Because as you guys know, it just really helps, doesn't it, when you're an independent podcaster.
Listen back to our episode that we did with My Turn guys about the movie Doom. I think that was I looked recently, it was like 9 months ago. So
I think it was like May or something, wasn't it?
Time is meaningless now. Like it's just
and then you came on and did Resident Evil Village
Yeah.
on our podcast around
So
May
look
at
for
some
that
point.
as well.
Yes.
It'd be good to do more stuff like this.
Yeah, get on and do
would
some more.
love to.
We'll get on and do some more gaming stuff. I'd love to do more.
And if
some
you
game
ever
reviews.
want to come on and chat about a game that is not a horror game, so that you're not confined to talking about it on your I mean, as in you want to talk about it, but your podcast doesn't give you the platform to talk about it, then come on my podcast. We can talk about it.
Yeah,
and
guys,
we do board games as well, by the way. So
I was going to ask, you do all sorts, right?
And
you do tabletop, you do escape rooms.
Yeah.
I love an escape room recommendation.
Yeah. Oh, where are you based?
Scotland now.
Okay. Maybe I'll think about it and tell you offline.
Yeah,
nice one.
Get on it. Get subscribed to My Turn podcast, guys. Get on it.
Sweet. Thanks very much for listening to this Horror Hangout bonus-ode.
Love a bonus-ode.
Love a good bonus-ode. See you next time.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.